not that it's rare to find us talking about a camera. Clearly, that's not the case. What is rare, however, is talking about one with reverence, with respect, heck, even with love. There are so few cameras that I cling to as treasured objects these days. I can recall just a few from my past that represent more than just a tool, but as an extension of me as an artist. The GH5S is a camera that I have truly come to love, and that's just been in my short time with it. I've shot with it professionally twice now and used it in testing environments more than a dozen times, and the soul of this camera has gripped me since the very first time I looked at the footage it produced. It's more than just a capture device. It's a device willing to work with me, the creator, and together we are making some truly breathtaking visuals. I've never been more proud of the work I've created, and I've never been so giddy to push a camera beyond what I once thought as limits, only to find that those limits were only barriers put up by what I thought were once great cameras before it. Look, there's no perfect camera, there is no perfect capture device, but there are cameras that feel as though they were created with a purpose, care, and as though the developers not only understood what we as artists wanted, but also saw beyond our desires to craft a finished product that exceeds even the loftiest of expectations. The GH5S is one such camera. It has quickly unseated every other tool I've used to create video in the past 5 years and jumps ahead of any curve I've yet to throw at it. It's a wonderfully designed camera that may not get the widespread recognition it deserves because of its 10 megapixel label that some will refuse to see beyond, and the fact that it isn't designed to be a photo camera as much as it truly excels at being a video camera. For some reason, the wider audience won't respect it as much as a Canon, a Nikon, or a Sony, and that's okay. It's not supposed to be any of those cameras. It's supposed to be a Panasonic GH camera, and as one, it is truly the best they've ever made. In this, the second field test of this camera, I want to show you what can be done in near darkness, as well as how beautiful footage looks in ideal lighting. The mix and breadth of what the GH5S can accomplish is even more outstanding given the $2,500 price point. $2,500 for such a masterpiece of a camera is so mind-boggling that I think that it even gets ignored. So flabbergasting is that concept. Today, outside of a dedicated cinema camera like an Alexa or a Red, you will find no better filmmaking tool than the GH5S. This is the final word from this filmmaker on what I consider to be one of the best video cameras ever made. I want you to take a look at this portrait I shot on the GH5S during a recent shoot in San Francisco. Look at how good the image quality is. It's really quite excellent. The detail, the depth of field, the overall image quality is just superb. I suppose the only complaint at this point would be to say that it's limited to 10 megapixels. But what if I told you it wasn't a photograph? That's right. The 4K video on the GH5S looks so good that stills captured from the 4K footage can pass off as photos. I personally have been waiting for the day that this would start happening at a point where anyone who wanted to could take full advantage of it. Sure, Red and Ari have been making this kind of quality for some time, but those are not what I call approachable cameras. Many filmmakers will go their entire careers without even touching one of them. It's wonderful to finally see a camera that can produce this kind of imagery at a price point that is actually affordable. The GH5S separates itself from the original GH5 in two other ways. One being the removal of on-sensor stabilization, and the second being the inclusion of Vlog out of the box. I shot a lot in Vlog in low light. The entire opening sequence of this video review was shot in Vlog and graded in post. But before looking at purposefully shot high ISO footage, I wanted to show how Vlog changes even well-lit environments, and offers quite a bit to those looking for more dynamic range. Here's a scene we shot in both GH5S standard profile to give you a sense of what the camera captures without using log, and also in log. It looks really good, but in the beginning of the scene you'll notice that there are some very deep shadows on the corners that, though for this scene look excellent, offer no real recovery options in post should we have wanted to change that look during editing. But in Vlog, we get everything. It allows us to put different LUTs and looks over the footage to do just about anything we want. Vlog is especially useful thanks to 10-bit recording and improved ISO, which allows for the camera's use in some particularly dark environments. Take a look at the GH5 footage here, shot in Vlog at ISO 6400. In this extremely dark environment, the shadows look especially noisy. The GH5 is doing its best to widen its dynamic range with Vlog, but the sensor is having a hard time doing so without some serious noise. I wouldn't consider this good footage, it's okay. In contrast, the GH5S in the exact same situation at the exact same settings does considerably better. Not only is the subject well captured, but the shadows are also extremely usable. The noise has been dramatically reduced, and overall the footage is significantly better. If you're curious how 10-bit, 8-bit, and all-I compare for post-production work, it's generally agreed upon that 10-bit is going to be your best bet. But looking here, even the shadows are hard to tell the difference among the three. What I'm saying is, unless you're doing really high-level color grading in post-production, you probably won't notice a difference in most circumstances. I took a moment to do a darkness reveal using only ISO to see how well the camera can see in pretty much near darkness. I started at ISO 800. The scene was lit by three sources: a table light, which was the brightest, a small wall sconce just off to camera left, and a very dim chandelier in the rear of the scene. I increased the ISO slowly at each of its intervals, and I have to say it's pretty impressive what this little sensor can see in the dark. I'm willing to say that I'd use footage from this scene up to ISO 25600. After that, it's just a bit too noisy for my taste. That said, it's incredibly impressive. I don't care what size the sensor is. Being able to feel comfortable up to ISO 25600 in some cases basically makes it so I can shoot in any situation I have ever found myself. For the remainder of this video, I'll pull back the grading I did on it so you can see the original Vlog out of camera footage compared to what I did in post. I said that the GH5S is one of the best video cameras ever made, and I of course will catch flack for such a statement. I'll be told it's hyperbolic since there are some truly outstanding video cameras on the market from Sony, Arri, and Red. Though the GH5S offers a great many capture settings, it won't shoot in RAW video, it won't capture above 60p and 4K, and it's not set up physically to compete with a Red or an Arri. But that doesn't mean it can't be one of the best filmmaking cameras ever made. Though an Arri and a Red are both the best choices for high-end filmmaking, they aren't the best choice for anything other than that. Bulky, expensive, complicated, and cumbersome. Did I mention expensive? They are designed for the highest end level of filmmaking. But the GH5S can also work in that world, as proven by large studios even using a Canon 5D on set of films as big as Marvel's Avengers. Not everything is for the Alexa, and if a Canon 5D can be used on a set, then the GH5S sure as hell can. Additionally, the GH5S offers so much to just about everyone looking to capture video that it outclasses anything priced under $10,000 in sheer imaging potential for a lowly $2,500. Argue with me all you want about Canon cinema cameras or Blackmagic equipment. There is no doubt that the GH5S can do anything those cameras could be used for, either just as well or better, and for a ridiculous fraction of the price. Should I buy a C300 or 4 GH5Ss? Or better yet, should I just buy one GH5S and outfit my entire filmmaking rig with my remaining $7,500? Imagine the equipment for audio and rigging I could get for that. What I'm saying is, Panasonic has done truly marvelous things with such a small, inexpensive body that it's hard to recommend anything short of a high-end cinema camera over the GH5S. Even when you do, the GH5S will still do many tasks better than those high-end cameras due to its size and versatility. The Panasonic GH5S is a spectacular filmmaking device that checks nearly every box. It works as a great camera alone and even better when paired with the GH5. What the 5S lacks in on-sensor stabilization, a move made by Panasonic at the request of high-end filmmakers who found it to work poorly with car and drone rigs, it makes up for in pure image quality across a range of ISOs. With both cameras in your arsenal, there will be few situations you cannot beautifully capture. In the modern era, you will find few filmmaking cameras that will impress you as much as the GH5S, and none of them can even come close to its price point.